God says. My child, come closer and listen with a calm heart, because what I am about to reveal is not meant to create fear, but awareness. There are moments in life when everything looks normal on the surface, yet beneath it, movements are happening that you cannot see. This is one of those moments. While you go about your days, carrying your love quietly in your heart, someone somewhere has been watching your soulmate very closely. Not watching with love, not watching with pure intentions, but watching with questions, suspicions, and hidden motives. You were not aware of this, and that is why I am speaking now. You may have felt small disturbances lately. A sudden heaviness without reason. A strange pause in communication. A delay that made you question yourself. My child, those feelings were not imagination. They were signals. When energies shift around the ones you love, your soul feels it before your mind understands it. Someone has been gathering information about your soulmate, looking into their past, their choices, their movements, and even their emotions. And you had no idea this was happening. I know your heart is sensitive. I know you love deeply and quietly. That is why I did not allow this knowledge to reach you earlier. Some truths arrive only when the heart is strong enough to receive them. And now, you are ready. This investigation did not begin by accident. It began because your connection carries weight. It carries destiny. When something is powerful, it attracts attention, not only from light, but also from those who fear what they cannot control. This person who is investigating your soulmate believes they are being careful. They believe they are being smart. They believe they are protecting something, or protecting themselves. But what they do not understand is that nothing stays hidden from me. Every message they send in secret, every question they ask quietly, every step they take without your knowledge, I see it all. And I allowed it to unfold for a reason greater than their intention. My child, this person is not a stranger. They are someone who knows your soulmate, or someone who believes they have a right to interfere in their life. They smile on the outside, but their mind is busy calculating. They observe patterns, they connect dots, they search for weaknesses. They think if they understand your soulmate deeply enough, they can influence the future. But they are unaware that the future of a divinely connected bond cannot be rewritten by human interference. You may wonder why I allowed this at all. Why didn't I stop it immediately? Listen carefully. Sometimes, truth must be exposed through pressure. Sometimes, loyalty is revealed only when tested. This investigation is not just about your soulmate. It is about revealing who truly stands with them, and who stands against the destiny I have written. Your soulmate has felt it too. They may not know exactly what is happening, but they have felt watched, questioned, evaluated. At times, they felt like they had to explain themselves without knowing why. At times, they doubted their own feelings, wondering if love should feel this complicated. My child, confusion often arrives when outside voices begin to interfere with the heart's truth. There were moments when your soulmate wanted to reach out to you but hesitated. Not because their love faded, but because pressure surrounded them. Words spoken by others, subtle suggestions, carefully planted doubts, all of these created noise around their clarity. This is how interference works. It does not attack loudly. It whispers softly until confusion feels like logic. But hear me clearly now, nothing is wrong with your connection. Nothing is broken beyond repair. What is happening is a revelation. Light is entering places that were hidden in shadow. And when light enters, discomfort follows, because darkness does not leave quietly. You have been protected from the worst of it. I placed peace over your heart so you would not carry anxiety that was not meant for you. I covered your sleep. I guarded your thoughts. While someone else was busy investigating, I was busy shielding you. That is my promise to those who trust me even when they do not understand. This person believes they are uncovering secrets, but in truth, they are exposing themselves. Their intentions, their fears, their unresolved wounds, they are all being revealed in the spiritual realm. What they plan next is what concerns them the most, because investigation often leads to action. And yes, my child, there is a plan forming. Not fully executed yet, but imagined, discussed, rehearsed in the mind. The plan is rooted in control. Control over emotions. Control over decisions. Control over outcomes. They believe that if they influence your soulmate now, they can redirect the future. They do not realize that destiny bends only to divine authority, not human manipulation. Still, plans made with wrong intentions create temporary disturbances, and I will not hide that truth from you. You may soon notice changes. A sudden test of trust. A conversation that feels heavier than usual. A situation that forces clarity. Do not panic when this happens. This is not destruction. This is exposure. What cannot survive truth was never meant to stay. My child, I want you to remain grounded. Do not jump to conclusions. Do not let fear write stories in your mind. Silence does not mean abandonment. Delay does not mean rejection. Sometimes, silence is protection, and delay is preparation. I am rearranging things behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. Your soulmate is not against you. They are under pressure. And pressure reveals character. This investigation will either strengthen their clarity or expose where healing is still needed. Either way, it serves a higher purpose. Nothing is wasted in my hands, not even interference. I see your heart. I see your patience. I see the way you choose love even when uncertainty surrounds you. That choice matters. Love rooted in faith is not easily shaken. You are not alone in this moment, even if it feels that way sometimes. I am closer than your breath, watching every move, guiding every outcome. Rest tonight with this truth: no plan formed against a divinely guided bond can succeed unless it aligns with growth and truth. What is not meant to harm you will transform you. What is meant to leave will leave. And what is meant to stay will emerge stronger than before. This is only the beginning of what will be revealed. Stay calm. Stay prayerful. Stay open. I am not done speaking. And I am not done protecting you. The silence you felt after what I revealed was not emptiness, my child. It was your soul adjusting to truth. Now listen again, because what unfolds next will explain why this investigation began, and what truly sits at the center of it. There is always a reason when someone decides to look so deeply into another person's life. No one invests this much energy without motive. And the motive behind this investigation is not random curiosity. It is rooted in fear, jealousy, and an unfinished story that someone never healed from. This person did not wake up one day and decide to investigate your soulmate. This decision grew slowly, fed by insecurity and the fear of losing control. Your soulmate carries a light that draws attention. Even when they try to live quietly, their presence leaves an impact. People notice them. People feel them. And when someone with unresolved wounds stands too close to such light, it awakens emotions they don't know how to handle. Instead of healing, they observe. Instead of trusting, they question. Instead of letting go, they interfere. This person believes your soulmate is changing. And they are right, but not in the way they think. Your soulmate has been growing emotionally, spiritually, and internally. Their priorities are shifting. Their heart is awakening. And when a soul begins to move toward its divine alignment, those who benefited from the old version feel threatened. They sense they are losing influence. So the investigation began with simple questions. Why are they distant? Who are they thinking about? What are they planning? At first, it sounded harmless. Concern, even. But soon, concern turned into control. Control turned into surveillance. And surveillance turned into judgment. They started looking into your soulmate's past, searching for patterns they could use. Old relationships. Old mistakes. Old vulnerabilities. They believed if they could understand the past deeply enough, they could predict, or even manipulate, the future. What they did not realize is that the past no longer defines who your soulmate is becoming. My child, this investigation is driven by the fear of replacement. Fear that your soulmate's heart no longer belongs to what once held power over it. Fear that someone else, you, now holds a place they can never access again. Fear makes people do things they would never do from a place of peace. There were conversations you never heard. Warnings disguised as advice. Opinions presented as facts. Doubts wrapped in logic. This person spoke carefully, choosing words that sounded reasonable but carried poison beneath them. They did not openly attack you or the connection. They planted seeds. And seeds, when watered with confusion, grow quietly. Your soulmate listened, not because they agreed, but because they were confused. When someone who has known you for a long time questions your choices, it creates inner conflict. Your soulmate began to second-guess their own feelings. Not because love faded, but because external voices became loud. This is how interference works, my child. It does not say, leave. It says, are you sure? It does not say, this is wrong. It says, be careful. And slowly, certainty becomes hesitation. The investigator believes they are protecting your soulmate, from heartbreak, from risk, from change. But what they are truly protecting is their own comfort. They are protecting the version of your soulmate that made them feel secure. They do not want growth if growth means losing relevance. There is also another layer you must understand. This person carries unresolved karma with your soulmate. Something from the past, unspoken feelings, unmet expectations, emotional dependency, was never healed. And when karma is unresolved, it seeks closure in unhealthy ways if not surrendered properly. Instead of facing their own wounds, they focused outward. Instead of healing, they controlled. Instead of releasing, they investigated. But karma cannot be escaped through manipulation. It can only be resolved through truth. You may wonder if this person hates you. The answer is more complex. They fear you. Not you as an individual, but what you represent. You represent change. You represent evolution. You represent a future where they no longer have influence. And that terrifies them. So the investigation continued. They watched behavior. They analyzed emotions. They tried to measure love. But love cannot be measured by logic. It cannot be controlled by strategy. And it cannot be destroyed by observation. My child, I want you to understand something important. Your soulmate never agreed to this interference. They never asked to be examined. They never invited judgment. This pressure was placed upon them without consent. And still, they tried to remain kind, respectful, and calm, because that is their nature. But even the strongest hearts feel heavy when surrounded by doubt. There were moments your soulmate felt trapped between loyalty and truth. Between peace and expectation. Between who they were and who they are becoming. This inner conflict is exhausting. And that exhaustion sometimes looks like distance. Do not mistake exhaustion for lack of love. I have been watching how your soulmate responds under this pressure. And what I see matters. They did not betray their heart. They did not turn cold. They did not choose cruelty. They struggled, but they did not surrender their integrity. That tells me everything I need to know. The one investigating believes they are close to uncovering something that will prove their suspicions. They believe they are close to justifying their interference. But what they are actually close to is exposure. Because the more someone digs without pure intentions, the more visible their own darkness becomes. My child, I am allowing this phase because clarity is approaching. Confusion cannot survive forever. Lies collapse under their own weight. And interference always reveals itself in time. Your soulmate is beginning to feel the pressure clearly now, not as concern, but as control. Soon, questions will turn into confrontation. Subtle influence will turn into visible tension. And at that moment, a choice will be forced, not by you, not by them, but by truth itself. Remain steady. Do not react emotionally. Do not seek answers aggressively. Trust that what is hidden is moving toward light. Your calm is your power right now. Your faith is your shield. You were never meant to fight this battle directly. This is not a battle of words, it is a battle of alignment. And alignment always wins. Stay with me, my child, because what I reveal now is delicate, and yet powerful. This is the part where the unseen begins to move into action. Until now, it was observation, questions, quiet interference. But when fear grows impatient, it always tries to take form. And that is exactly what happened next. The investigation reached a point where the one watching believed they knew enough. Enough to interfere more boldly. Enough to step beyond observation and into influence. They told themselves they were helping. They convinced themselves that action was necessary. But deep within, they were driven by the same fear that started this path, the fear of losing relevance, the fear of being left behind, the fear of watching your soulmate choose a future that did not include them. So a plan began to form. Not all at once. Not loudly. Plans born of insecurity are fragile, stitched together with assumptions and half-truths. This one grew slowly, in thoughts revisited late at night, in conversations replayed in the mind, in imaginary outcomes rehearsed again and again. The plan was never written down, but it was clear in intention: create doubt strong enough to shift direction. They believed that if they could shake your soulmate's certainty, they could delay decisions. If they could create emotional exhaustion, they could regain control. And if they could force hesitation, they could change the future. My child, hear this clearly: the plan was never about truth. It was about influence. They began by increasing pressure. Asking more questions. Repeating the same concerns in different words. Pointing out risks where there were none. Turning natural challenges into warnings. They watched your soulmate closely, measuring reactions, studying silence, looking for signs of weakness they could exploit. Your soulmate felt it. They felt the shift from concern to control. But they did not know how to name it yet. When pressure comes from someone familiar, it confuses the heart. You begin to doubt your instincts. You wonder if you are being ungrateful for questioning their intentions. You second-guess your own clarity. This is where the plan almost succeeded. There were moments when your soulmate felt overwhelmed. Moments when they questioned whether choosing love should feel this heavy. Moments when they wondered if peace required sacrifice of the heart. They stood at the edge of an emotional crossroad, not knowing which voice to trust, the quiet truth inside or the loud warnings outside. During this time, distance appeared. Not because love faded, but because confusion clouded expression. Words became harder to find. Energy felt scattered. You may have felt this as silence, delay, or emotional absence. My child, I know that hurt you. And I want you to know, that pain did not go unseen. I was there in those moments. I was there when your soulmate sat alone, feeling torn between loyalty and longing. I was there when they replayed conversations, trying to find logic where only fear existed. I was there when they almost convinced themselves that stepping back would bring peace. That was the moment the plan came closest to working. But here is where human plans fail and divine purpose rises. The pressure became too heavy. The interference became too obvious. What was meant to subtly influence began to feel suffocating. And when control becomes visible, it loses its power. Your soulmate began to sense that something was wrong, not with the connection, but with the voices around it. A shift happened inside them. Quiet, but firm. They began to notice patterns. Repeated doubts. Recycled warnings. Emotional manipulation disguised as care. And once awareness enters the heart, manipulation loses its grip. The very investigation meant to control them began to awaken them. This is why I allowed it to go this far. Your soulmate did not break. They paused. And pausing is not failure, it is processing. In that pause, clarity returned slowly, like light entering a room at dawn. They remembered how love felt before fear was introduced. They remembered peace. They remembered you. The plan depended on urgency. On rushed decisions. On emotional overwhelm. But divine connections do not respond well to pressure. They respond to truth. And truth began to rise. The one who planned this sensed the shift. They felt control slipping. And fear grew louder inside them. They tried once more, one final push. A stronger suggestion. A heavier warning. A more direct attempt to influence. And that is when I stepped in fully. I began removing confusion. I softened your soulmate's heart without weakening it. I brought memories forward, not of pain, but of authenticity. I reminded them of who they are becoming, not who others want them to remain. What the planner did not realize is that interference always accelerates exposure. The more they pushed, the clearer their intention became. And your soulmate finally saw it, not as concern, but as fear-driven control. That realization was painful. Betrayal does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from those who claim to know what is best for you. Your soulmate grieved, not just the interference, but the loss of trust. That grief mattered. It marked growth. My child, the plan failed because it underestimated love rooted in truth. It underestimated a soul guided by purpose. And it underestimated divine timing. Yes, there were consequences. Emotional exhaustion. Temporary distance. Inner conflict. But there was no destruction. What nearly broke instead strengthened awareness. What nearly separated instead clarified alignment. You were protected during this phase more than you know. I kept you from carrying confusion that was not yours. I kept your intuition intact. I guarded your worth from being questioned by someone else's insecurity. And now, the plan is unraveling. The one who investigated feels exposed, not publicly yet, but internally. They sense they have gone too far. Fear now turns inward. Control becomes panic. And panic makes mistakes. The very thing they tried to prevent, loss of influence, is now inevitable. Your soulmate is no longer blind to the interference. They may still be quiet, still processing, still healing, but they are no longer controlled. Awareness has returned. And awareness is power. Do not rush them now. Do not demand explanations. Let clarity settle fully. Healing cannot be forced, it must be felt. Your patience at this moment will speak louder than any words. What almost succeeded was never meant to finish. What almost broke was never meant to end. You are standing at the turning point, the moment after the storm begins to calm, but before the sky fully clears. Trust me when I say this, what comes next will bring truth into the open. The masks will slip. Intentions will surface. And choices will be made, not from fear, but from clarity. Stay steady. Stay open. Stay rooted in love without abandoning self-respect. I am still guiding this story. And I have not allowed this far only to abandon the ending. Remain with me, my child, because now the moment arrives when what was hidden can no longer stay in the shadows. There comes a point in every story where silence breaks, where tension demands release, and where truth steps forward without asking permission. This is that moment. What was once subtle interference begins to reveal its shape. The pressure that your soulmate felt inside becomes impossible to ignore. The patterns are too clear now. The repeated doubts. The controlling concern. The emotional weight that never lifted. And slowly, your soulmate realizes that the discomfort they have been carrying does not belong to love, it belongs to manipulation. This realization does not come gently. Awareness often arrives with grief. Your soulmate feels the ache of betrayal, not loud, but deep. They trusted someone who claimed to care. They believed the warnings were protective. And now they see that those warnings were rooted in fear, not truth. This realization shakes them, because it forces them to confront something painful. Not everyone who speaks with concern speaks with love. The one who investigated senses this shift immediately. When control begins to fail, insecurity grows desperate. Their tone changes. Their patience thins. The calm mask they once wore begins to crack. And in those cracks, truth leaks out. Words are spoken that reveal intention. Questions turn into accusations. Advice turns into pressure. My child, this is how exposure happens, not through confrontation you plan, but through behavior that cannot hide itself any longer. Your soulmate is drawn into a moment where they must choose how to respond. Not react, but respond. For the first time, they do not explain themselves. They do not defend their heart. They simply observe. And observation brings clarity. They begin to see how often their feelings were dismissed. How their growth was questioned. How their happiness made someone else uncomfortable. And with that clarity comes a quiet strength. Not anger. Not revenge. Just resolve. This is where I step in as protector. I remove the fog from your soulmate's mind. I strengthen their inner voice. I remind them that love does not suffocate, control, or confuse. I remind them that peace does not require permission. And I remind them that their future is not something anyone else gets to approve. The confrontation, whether spoken aloud or felt deeply, changes everything. The one who interfered is no longer hidden behind good intentions. Their fear is visible. Their need for control is exposed. And once exposed, it loses power. They may deny it at first. They may claim misunderstanding. They may attempt guilt, emotional withdrawal, or sudden kindness. These are the final attempts of control when authority is slipping away. But your soulmate is no longer vulnerable to these patterns. Awareness has made them strong. There is a moment, quiet but profound, when your soulmate decides internally, I will no longer live my life through someone else's fear. That decision shifts energy instantly. Pressure lifts. Confusion fades. And space opens for truth to breathe. My child, this is not about punishment. It is about alignment. The one who interfered is not destroyed, but they are repositioned. Their influence weakens. Their voice no longer dominates. They are forced to face their own insecurity instead of projecting it outward. You may notice a change soon. A softness returning to your soulmate. A clarity in their words. A calmer presence. This is not because everything is solved, but because control has been removed. Healing begins when interference ends. Your soulmate begins to reflect on you with new eyes. Not through the lens of others' opinions, but through their own truth. They remember how your presence felt before confusion entered. How safe your energy was. How honest the connection felt. And regret may surface, not as shame, but as responsibility. This regret is not about mistakes, it is about awareness. They recognize the cost of silence. The cost of hesitation. The cost of allowing others to influence what should have been protected. Do not be afraid of this regret. It is not distance, it is preparation for truth. The one who interfered may feel loss now. Loss of influence. Loss of certainty. Loss of control. And loss always reveals character. They may withdraw. They may attempt to justify their actions. Or they may finally confront their own fear. Whatever path they choose, they no longer hold power over what is being rebuilt. My child, divine intervention does not always arrive as miracles you can see. Sometimes it arrives as clarity you cannot ignore. And clarity is what has entered now. I am restructuring the emotional landscape around your soulmate. I am closing doors that were never meant to stay open. I am restoring boundaries that were broken quietly. And I am creating space for honesty to return. This phase may feel slow. Truth often needs time to settle. But do not mistake slowness for stagnation. Foundations are being reinforced. Alignment is being restored. You are being protected from repeating the same cycle. Your soulmate is being guided to choose from awareness, not pressure. And what is being built now is stronger than what existed before. Remain patient just a little longer. The storm has passed, but the ground is still wet. New growth is coming, but it needs space, not force. Stay with me, my child, because this is where healing completes its work and destiny settles into its rightful place. What you have endured was not meant to break you or your connection. It was meant to refine it, to remove what did not belong, and to strengthen what was always real. After exposure comes quiet. After conflict comes reflection. Your soulmate enters a season of stillness, not emptiness, but deep understanding. The noise that once surrounded their heart has faded. The voices that competed for influence have grown distant. And in that silence, truth speaks clearly again. Your soulmate begins to breathe differently now. The tightness in their chest loosens. The heaviness they carried for so long begins to lift. For the first time in a while, they feel free to think, feel, and choose without pressure. Freedom is not loud, it is gentle, and it feels like peace returning home. They look back at the path they walked and finally see it clearly. They understand how confusion entered. They see how control disguised itself as care. And they recognize how close they came to losing something precious, not because it lacked value, but because fear almost convinced them to abandon truth. This realization humbles them. My child, humility is the doorway to healing. Your soulmate does not justify what happened. They do not blame you. They take responsibility for allowing outside influence to touch something sacred. And with that responsibility comes growth. Real growth. The kind that changes behavior, not just words. They begin to rebuild from the inside. They set boundaries quietly but firmly. They reclaim ownership of their choices. And most importantly, they reconnect with their heart, not the wounded part, but the honest part. The part that always knew where peace lived. As this happens, the bond between you begins to realign naturally. Not through force. Not through chasing. But through recognition. Energy finds its way back when it is no longer blocked. Love returns when it is no longer questioned. You may notice it in small ways at first. A warmer tone. A more present conversation. A sense of emotional availability that was missing before. These are not coincidences. These are signs of restoration. The investigation that was meant to interfere has lost all power now. It no longer controls direction. It no longer shapes perception. What was meant to divide has instead clarified. What was meant to weaken has strengthened. This is how divine justice works, not through punishment, but through transformation. The one who interfered fades into the background of the story. Not erased, but no longer central. Their role is complete. What they refuse to heal within themselves can no longer touch what you and your soulmate are building. Influence ends where awareness begins. My child, I want you to understand something deeply now. Your patience mattered. Your restraint mattered. Your faith mattered. You were tested, not to see how loudly you could react, but how steadily you could trust. And you passed that test with grace. You did not beg for clarity. You did not chase validation. You allowed me to work in spaces you could not reach. That is why restoration is arriving without chaos. That is why peace, not drama, is becoming the foundation. Your soulmate is now choosing from alignment, not fear. And choices made from alignment carry blessings with them. They carry longevity. They carry peace. There is a new beginning opening before you both. It is not built on illusion. It is built on truth that survived pressure. Trust that survives testing becomes unbreakable. I am sealing this chapter now. I remove the residue of confusion from your heart. I release the weight of waiting from your spirit. I restore trust where it was shaken. I bless this connection with clarity, honesty, and protection. No hidden plan will rise against you again. No interference will enter unnoticed. What belongs to you will recognize you clearly now. What does not belong will fall away quietly. Walk forward without fear. You are not behind. You are being protected. Your future is no longer being investigated, it is being established. I bless your days with peace. I bless your nights with rest. I bless your love with truth. And I bless this connection to grow stronger, calmer, and more aligned with every step forward. Go in confidence, my child. I am with you. Stay with me, my child, because even after endings, I sometimes speak again, not to reopen wounds, but to seal blessings. This is not an extra chapter born out of lack. This is a completion chapter, where what was healed is anchored, and what was promised is protected. You have come through a season that tested your silence, your patience, and your faith. Many would have reacted. Many would have broken. But you chose stillness. And stillness allowed me to work in ways noise never could. Now I speak again, not because danger remains, but because alignment must be strengthened before it is fully lived. Your soulmate is no longer the same person who stood confused under pressure. Something inside them has shifted permanently. When awareness arrives after pain, it does not leave easily. They now recognize emotional manipulation when it appears. They feel discomfort faster. They trust their inner voice more deeply. This growth did not come cheap, but it came real. They understand now that love is not something to be defended against others' opinions. Love is something to be protected from interference. And they see clearly that what almost pulled them away was not logic, it was fear borrowed from someone else. My child, borrowed fear is heavy. It does not belong to the soul carrying it. And once released, the soul feels lighter than it has in a long time. Your soulmate has released it. This is why you may sense a change even without words. Energy speaks before language. The way they think of you now is calmer, clearer, and free of distortion. They no longer filter their feelings through others' expectations. They allow themselves to feel fully again. And with feeling comes remembrance. They remember the quiet strength you showed. They remember how you did not manipulate, threaten, or demand. They remember how your presence never confused them, only the voices around them did. This remembrance is powerful. It rewrites how they value connection. They now understand the difference between attachment and alignment, between obligation and love, between noise and truth. My child, I am also working on you. Even though you carried yourself with grace, you still absorbed some weight. Waiting stretches the heart. Silence creates questions. Uncertainty tests self-worth if one is not careful. But I did not allow that weight to stay inside you. I slowly taught you something important through this process. You are not required to compete for what is divinely meant for you. What is yours will not need pressure. What is aligned will not require manipulation. What is real will return with clarity, not confusion. This understanding is now part of you. And because of that, you will never again accept less than emotional honesty. You will never again confuse distance caused by interference with distance caused by disinterest. You will never again shrink your intuition to make others comfortable. This growth in you matters just as much as the growth in your soulmate. Now listen carefully, because I am placing a covering over this connection. I place a boundary of peace around your bond. I block external influence that does not carry pure intent. I silence voices that thrive on fear, jealousy, or control. I strengthen communication so truth flows gently, not defensively. From this point forward, interference will be recognized quickly. It will not grow roots. It will not take shape. Awareness is now active on both sides. There may still be conversations ahead. Honest ones. Gentle ones. Conversations where feelings are shared, where misunderstandings are clarified, where accountability is taken. Do not fear these moments. They are not signs of weakness, they are signs of maturity. Truth spoken with calm does not destroy love. Truth spoken with respect deepens it. My child, I want you to know something that your heart has quietly wondered: was all this necessary? Yes. Because without pressure, hidden dynamics remain hidden. Without challenge, boundaries remain untested. Without interference, awareness sometimes sleeps. What you experienced accelerated growth that otherwise would have taken years. And now, the connection stands on stronger ground than before. Not perfect. Not fantasy-based. But real, conscious, and protected. Your soulmate now chooses you not from impulse, but from clarity. And a choice made from clarity carries commitment naturally. They are not rushing. They are not retreating. They are moving with intention. You may soon notice a desire in them to do things differently. To be more present. To listen more deeply. To protect the connection instead of questioning it. These changes are not performative, they are internal. Allow them space to show you through actions, not promises. And you, remain who you have become. Do not overgive to prove worth. Do not over-explain to feel secure. Do not revisit pain that has already served its purpose. You are not the version of yourself who waited in confusion anymore. You are the version who understands timing, boundaries, and divine protection. As this new phase begins, life around you will also start to shift. Peace in one area invites peace in others. You may notice clarity in decisions, calm in emotions, and a renewed sense of self-respect. That is not coincidence, that is alignment spreading. My child, I bless this season. I bless conversations that heal, not reopen wounds. I bless silence that feels safe, not anxious. I bless love that feels grounded, not unstable. I bless you with discernment, so you never again confuse pressure with care. And I bless your soulmate with courage, to stand in truth even when it is uncomfortable, to choose alignment over approval, and to protect what matters without fear. This story does not end in fear. It does not end in loss. It ends in clarity, growth, and peace. What tried to interfere has lost its place. What is meant to stay has been strengthened. Walk forward now without looking back at what almost happened. Focus on what is happening. I am not only with you in moments of struggle. I am with you in moments of calm, growth, and love. And this time, nothing stands between what is aligned and what is becoming real. Stay with me, my child. This is the true final sealing, not of fear, not of pain, but of destiny fulfilled and protected. What I speak now is not to warn you anymore, it is to establish you. You have reached the end of a cycle that many never complete with grace. You walked through confusion without becoming bitter. You waited without losing yourself. You trusted without seeing proof. And because of that, what unfolds now is not fragile, it is grounded. Let me tell you something clearly so it settles deep in your heart: nothing else is hidden now. No more secret investigations. No more unseen manipulation. No more forces working behind your back. Everything that needed exposure has already been exposed in the spiritual realm, and what happens spiritually always completes itself in the physical world in divine timing. Your soulmate is standing at a new inner position now. They are no longer reacting to life, they are choosing. And choosing requires maturity, courage, and truth. The confusion that once surrounded them has burned away. What remains is clarity mixed with responsibility. They understand now that love is not something to be defended against outsiders. Love is something that must be chosen again and again, even when pressure appears. And they are finally strong enough to choose without fear. This growth did not happen overnight. It happened through discomfort. Through moments where silence spoke louder than words. Through realizations that hurt before they healed. But that is how real transformation works. My child, you were never forgotten during this process. Even when you felt unseen, I was shaping outcomes in your favor. I was protecting your dignity. I was guarding your heart from absorbing blame that was never yours to carry. You did not lose anything in this season. You gained discernment. You gained strength. You gained alignment. And alignment changes everything. Now hear me carefully, because I am establishing boundaries that cannot be crossed again. From this point forward, no one will be allowed to interfere in this connection without consequence. Any energy that tries to create confusion will feel uncomfortable and be forced away. Any intention rooted in jealousy or control will lose access immediately. This is not punishment, it is protection. I am placing wisdom between you and emotional chaos. I am placing clarity between you and manipulation. I am placing peace where anxiety once tried to live. Your soulmate feels this shift even if they cannot explain it. They feel calmer around the idea of you. They no longer feel the need to question what feels right. Peace has returned to their thoughts, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is honest. There is a difference between excitement and peace. Excitement burns fast. Peace stays. And what is returning now is peace. You may notice that the connection no longer feels dramatic. The intensity is quieter, deeper, steadier. That is not loss, that is maturity. Love that survives interference does not shout anymore. It rests. My child, I also want to speak to the part of you that waited quietly and wondered if you were ever truly chosen. You were. Not impulsively. Not emotionally. But consciously. Being chosen consciously lasts longer than being chosen emotionally. And now, your soulmate's heart is awake enough to choose consciously. This does not mean there will never be challenges. It means challenges will no longer threaten the foundation. The ground beneath you is solid now. There will be moments of conversation ahead, honest ones. Moments where feelings are shared openly. Moments where accountability brings closeness instead of conflict. Let those moments come naturally. Do not rush them. Trust that clarity does not need force. And you, do not shrink yourself to make space for love. You no longer need to prove your worth. You no longer need to wait in uncertainty. You are allowed to expect emotional responsibility now. You are allowed to expect respect. You are allowed to expect peace. Because you have earned it through patience and faith. I am closing the door to the version of you who waited in confusion. That version taught you lessons, but it does not follow you forward. Where you are going, love does not need to be guessed. From this moment, you step into a chapter where your intuition feels calm, not alert. Where your heart feels steady, not guarded. Where love feels mutual, not questioned. This is not a fantasy ending. This is a realignment ending. What was tested has been strengthened. What was threatened has been secured. What was delayed has been prepared. I bless your connection with longevity. I bless your communication with honesty. I bless your bond with emotional safety. I bless your future with peace that does not depend on anyone else's approval. Let go of the last traces of fear now. You no longer need them. They protected you once, but their job is finished. Walk forward knowing this: you were never behind. You were never forgotten. You were never wrong to trust. Everything that happened led you here, to clarity, to strength, to a love that is no longer vulnerable to outside influence. I am with you in this new beginning. Not watching from afar, walking with you. And nothing meant for you will ever be taken from you again.